Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Underrated Movie Podcast feed. For today's episode, we are actually going to be releasing an episode of my other podcast that I co-host, the Midnight Film Society. On that show, me and my good friend Damian discuss more recently released films. And for this episode, we actually broke down our best of the year top 10 films of 2024. Episodes of the Midnight Film Society release every other Monday on the opposite Monday from when episodes of Underrated release. So, if you like what me and Damian said about our top 10 movies of last year, consider giving Midnight Film Society a follow as well. All of the links will be in the show notes. And without anything else to say, please enjoy the episode.
Hello everybody, welcome back. It is Monday, January 6, 2025, and you are listening to the 5th annual Midnight Film Society year-end extravaganza. I am your host, Anna Recluse, with a juicy caboose, Damian Sherman. Joining me today, as always, is...
Derek McDuff.
On today's show, the only thing Derek and I will be doing is counting down our top 10 favorite movies of 2024. Buddy, we got here. We are here. End of the year. We did it. Collectively, you and I made it to the end of the year of our Lord, 2024. Buddy, how we feeling?
You know what? I'm feeling great, honestly. 2024, for me, I mean, I know that, there's like the whole there's a fascist gonna be going to the White House. That's not great. But for me, in my personal life, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for Underrated. It was the first full year, or calendar year, I should say, where I did it on my own. So it was a really big thing for me. Big risk, and I think it really took things in my own direction and didn't have anybody to fall back on, and it paid off though, because I got to go to Comic-Con. I had a panel at Comic-Con. I got to have you flew out, met for the first time IRL. That was cool. Got to do a lot of cool stuff. Got to be see my brother get married and gave a speech at his wedding. So nice. I have my new sister-in-law, who I've always wanted a little sister, and so I got one, and went on a bunch of cool trips, and and a lot of other personal stuff that was really good this year. So 2024, good year for Derek, good year for Underrated. Maybe not a good year for the world, but I was okay.
Yeah, 2024, more like 2024, 2020 more. All right.
Okay, good one. Good
yeah, one. Woo. Let's do it. yeah. Very I'll have a blog post up hopefully in the near future, before the heat death of the universe. But started off with a whimper, with getting laid off and months of employment seeking for myself. But yeah, that definitely did have a nice capper there in the summer. Going out to California for the first time, first Comic-Con. Yeah, thanks to you, I got to see all the days of that. Just saw the San Diego Zoo when my mom out there. Zoo is great.
Zoo is great. Did you see the Okapi?
I did see the Okapi. In fact, I did. Nice. Yeah. Made sure to take a picture of that. Yeah. Saw the King of the Jungle. Saw some tigers, some bears. Oh my.
San Diego. I went there myself this year. It's a good zoo.
It's a very good zoo. Yeah. Yes. 2024. Had some loss. My cat passed away a couple months ago, so that sucks. But yeah, just overall, pretty interesting year, we should say. Overall, for us, for the macro sense and the micro sense, interesting, we would say. Let's shift it to movies. I had a very interesting, I'll start us off. I had a very interesting, movie year. Finally got Regal Limited. So I I don't know. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I feel like I saw more movies in theaters this year. I have a distinct memory of seeing many of them. Saw Furiosa with my cousin over in Reading, which is apparently one of the biggest or the biggest IMAX screen in Massachusetts. That was amazing. Saw Deadpool and Wolverine with you in IMAX, so that was a great movie going experience. So yeah, I just had some really
that was great.
That was very fun. Yeah, and breaking it all down with you in the podcast was also fun.
Mm-hmm. Was it IMAX or was it Dolby? I can't remember.
Might have been. Yeah, you're right. It might have been Dolby. Yeah, I was just like big.
I'm a big Dolby stan.
I was just like big screen must be IMAX. What was I going to say? Yeah, very very good. I would say movie going year for me. Very good movie year overall for me from my perspective. Derek, what do you think about the year of film in 2024?
Yeah, it was a weird year. There's been a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it's a bad year," and I think maybe it was not as strong of a year for like big budget studio franchise stuff. There was only like the one Marvel movie, which was fun, but like not the best. This the Sony Spider-Man universe collapsed on itself. The DC didn't come out with any DCU didn't come out with any movies, but I think there was a lot of stuff that was really good, and some franchise stuff that was really good. A lot of it from smaller or more indie creators, directors, and stuff like that, auteurs, whatever that means. And so I would say it's a good year. I think honestly, my top like five are all 5-star movies. All of them could be number ones by their own merit, but I had to pick an order. So yeah, I think maybe a top heavy year, but I was okay with this year.
Yeah, I think you're correct with all the stuff you said about the blockbusters underperforming this year on quite a different levels. Furiosa underperformed. Many different big budget movies underperformed, and then like we said, not the mid-range movies, but well, I guess they are mid-range. Like Nosferatu is kind of mid-range, I guess. So that is performing well as we speak. Lot of horror performed well this year. Heretic performed very well. Trap, I think, did well for
People
Mr.
are saying
Shyamalan.
It's a good horror year.
Yes, people are saying. People have said it is a good year for horror, and I would wholeheartedly agree. Let me very quickly try to find list of horror from this year. 24 horror. From your perspective, Derek, from a guy that's not tuned into horror, you would also say that's a good year for horror, right?
I think so. Yeah, there was some good horror stuff that I saw this year that I dug. So yeah, one of them might have even had made my list. We'll see. Who knows? But yeah, maybe more than one. Who knows? But yeah, this was a good year for horror, I think. And I'm, like you said, I'm not the biggest horror guy, but there was a lot that I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, they performed really well, and they were very good as well. Those things aren't always mutually exclusive. Substance performed very well. Long Legs had long legs, as we mentioned. First Omen did very well, and then I think one of the biggest ones. I don't have the data in front of me, but I think Terrifier 3 had some of the biggest numbers this year in terms of horror. Cuckoo did very well. Quiet Place Day 1 did fairly well. Yeah, a lot of horror did very well this year.
Yeah, definitely big year for horror.
Indeed. So let's get to some of the smaller, or some of the macro questions around our lists. How long were you gestating this? How long were you thinking about this? Were you moving around your placements up until the last minute?
I would say probably till about last night. There might have been some stuff I saw late that made the list, and kind of readjusting things. It's like, oh well, and I even rewatched all the trailers last night for all the movies, and I was like, okay, how does this make me feel? I was like, all right, I'm gonna switch to the number 6 and 7. But I had most of my picks pretty, especially my top like my top 6 or 7 were pretty locked in stone.
Pretty locked in, yeah.
Yeah.
Without spoiling too much of it, did anything drop out of your top 10? Did anything move into the top 10?
Yes. One thing did move into the top 10. I had a list of basically like just my contenders for things I wanted to put on, and I was like, all right, well, I don't think anything from the top 8 is switching, but there might be one or two things that are late that might slip in there, and I was really not sure what the 10 spot was going to be for a second, but it all came together in the end.
Nice, yeah, yeah. Same for me. I had one that fairly recently slipped into the top 10. Again, not talking specifics, anything recent, like within the past, let's say 2 to 3 weeks, jump into your top 10 or not really?
Yeah, something did with them. Yeah.
Something crept in there. All right.
We'll see crept in.
Ooh, interesting.
Crept in like a thief in the night.
Yeah. So anything that really jumped out to you from this year that was like either surprised for how good it was, or surprised that you went into it and came out away kind of cold on it?
Yeah, there was one. We talked about it last week, I think, or last time we recorded, which is The Substance.
Yeah.
Only heard good things about it.
Yeah.
Did not do it for me. So, like we talked about great horror year, a lot of people, everybody said they loved The Substance.
Yes.
I don't want to rag on it because, I appreciate a lot of things that they were doing, but it did not really work for me.
Yeah. That's genuinely unfortunate. Yeah, so I think all the setup is done. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into the game we have for the list?
No, yeah, let's go. Let's roll.
Let's do it. All right. So last year we did this, and it turned out to be pretty fun. So we're gonna guess each other's lists. We're gonna guess each other's.
And
picks.
You did not tell me we were doing it this year. I was just like, hey, are we still doing this thing?
You reminded me. Yeah, it was fun. It's a fun little game on the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically I'll say, Derek, your number 10 is coming up. Your number 10 is next. So before you tell me what your number 10 is, let me guess. And so, yeah, we just talked about this for a little bit, and because it is such a haphazard sort of thing, we didn't really discuss the parameters of it, the rules of it. So let's just say you either get it or you don't. You guess it, and if you're wrong...
I don't like that. Like what? So if I'm like one spot off, I don't get any points?
Yes. Yeah.
No.
What do you want to do?
I want to do what we did last year. I think it was if you're spot on, you get like some points. If you're one off, you get a couple points, and if you're on the list, you get like 1 point.
Okay. Do you want to do like 5 spot on, 3 if you're one off, 1 if you're 1 if you're more than 1 off?
Yeah, that works. If it's on the list, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll see if I can go back and keep track of all the numbers there. Okay, so 5 spot on, 3 if you're 1 off, and 1 if you're more than 1 off. Gotcha.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So yeah, with that, I guess we're ready to get into it. Yes.
Yeah, let's roll. Right. We got potentially 20 movies to talk about, but I'm sure there'll be some overlap.
So yeah, there may be. Yes, there definitely could be. So with that, let's get to our top 10 favorite films of the year of the Lord 2024. I will kick us off. Derek, what do you think is my top number 10 film of 2024?
I think it is the movie that I just brought up, The Substance.
You are incorrect, but you are okay. So we talked about this sorry, 1 second. We have to take a quick tangent because you mentioned something that you mentioned possible spoilers for the way we're going to do it, which was if we have the same movie on the, somewhere in the list that we say pause, it's somewhere else in the list. So going back to what you just said, was The Substance my number 10? It was not my number 10, but it is 2 positions off. So
well, don't spoil it. Don't say what it is. We'll come back to it.
Sorry. It's
clear it's not on my list, so you don't have to. Okay. You don't have to say that.
Okay, I didn't have to say that. You're correct. Okay, so it's more than 1 position away. How about that? I'll say that again. Okay. I'll say that.
All right. Well, you could be like, well, just leave it in suspense. You can be like, maybe it's on my list, maybe it's not. And then when it gets to it, it's like, all right, there we go.
Then we'll tally the points at the end. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Oh my gosh, anyways, Damian.
My number 10 is a movie I saw recently. It's the one I was alluding to that I saw most recently, and it is The Remarkable Life of Evelyn.
Mats was born with a rare muscle disease. As he gradually became more dependent on his wheelchair, his gaming time and screen time increased dramatically. Our deepest sorrow lay in the fact that he would never experience friendships, love, or to make a difference in other people's lives.
You proved us wrong.
You proved us so wrong.
Talked about it very recently, so I'll just say that, yeah, it's an incredible... so let me back up again. My theme of my list is things that I feel like are very interesting right now and interesting to me. Just like David Lynch, as John Ford said, you know, when the horizon's at the top and the bottom of the frame, it's interesting. If it's in the middle, it's not interesting.
No. Horizon.
No. The horizon. So I just feel
David
like
Lynch as John Ford.
My list is made up of things that I find interesting, and this is interesting. I find this stuff is, looking back on it, this is going to be a movie about our times, about this. You know, we're still in the nascent years of the internet. You know, the internet as we know it really only been around for like 15 years, a very short period of time, and I feel like it's still not being taken seriously by a lot of people. And I think this movie does take, you know, the internet and the relationships we forge on it very seriously. So if anybody wants to see a fantastic film about, you know, disability and accessibility and making friends online and the meaningfulness of that, highly recommend The Remarkable Life of Evelyn, now streaming on Netflix.
Very nice. I need to watch this. You know, I love docs. I wasn't sure if you were going to include a doc. I went back and forth as if I was going to guess this or not. But yeah, this is one that I've been meaning to check out. And, you know, I've talked about how, you know, I think that we live in, like you said, we live in a world where, you know, these kind of relationships that we forge online would not be possible a decade and a half ago or 2 decades ago. So I think, and especially not for someone like the person in his position who, we should give, I think, context to what this movie's about. It's a documentary about a young man who passed away, and his parents thought he was kind of just, you know, he was, you know, physically, I guess, disabled and unable to do a lot of things physically, and so he spent a lot of time in his room. But then his parents found out that he actually had this incredible social life and this great, you know, bond with many people through World of Warcraft. And this documentary explores the love that was directed to this guy and that he directed to other people. So I really want to check this one out.
Yes, very, very good film. Very good. So with that, Derek, you're number 10. I'm going to go ahead.
So you have your picks locked in, right? Because I got my picks locked in for you. So, all right.
Locked in, baby.
What do you think my number 10 is?
I think your number 10 is a movie that you recommended me seeing fairly recently. And I did check it out, and I liked it. I liked it enough, you know. It was a film that I watched and didn't hate. My guess for your number 10 is Wolves.
Wolves. Yes. That is a good guess. I will not spoil whether or not that's coming up later on my list. You'll have to wait and see. But that is not my number 10. My number 10 is a action movie that I think is not likely to pop up on a lot of other top 10 lists, but that's okay. Which is kind of why it's fun to have it in my 10 spot here. That is the Guy Ritchie film, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
If I'm to do this, I'll need my own team. You won't like them. They're all... mad. They'll need to be. This is an unsanctioned, unauthorized mission. If we fail, England will be condemned to a lifetime under the German boot.
And so I said, that is not a dog. That is my wife.
This movie is just... It's Guy Ritchie's Inglourious Bastards. It is just high-octane, over-the-top, ridiculous violence against Nazis. You know, Alan Ritchson going around bow and arrowing people. It's, you know, it's got Henry Golding being a badass. Henry Cavill just doing his like, yes, well, I happen to be the guy that James Bond is. He's based on, sort of. And, you know, you've got all these great performances. Cary Elwes doing his I'm the real M. Did you know that? I'm quite a British guy. Did you know that? And just killing a bunch of Nazis. Till Schweiger being the fucking most just evil German that he's ever been. So, you know, highly recommend this. It's just a blast. You know, if you want to just see a ridiculous, over the top action spy movie, if you like Guy Ritchie, right? If you like that shit, you're gonna love this movie. If you like Inglourious Bastards and you've been really waiting to see a bunch of Nazis get like exploded and machine gunned in the face and lit on fire and U-boats blowing up and it's like, oh no, the plan has gone awry. You know, if you liked, Man from Uncle and all that shit,
Yeah.
check it out. It's fucking great.
Nice. Yes, I
guess I should have asked you, is this higher on your list so we can hold the talk about it? I had a feeling it wasn't, though.
No, it is not. It is not, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yes, again, just talking about things that we need reminders of. It's good to punch Nazis in the face, and it's good to explode them.
Especially now.
Yeah, it's a what was that called? Like just it's evergreen. It's always going to be there. It's always a good lesson to remind people of fascism is terrible and Nazis are bad, and sometimes you gotta just pop one in the face. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. All right, so there's your number 10. So we're at my number 9. Derek, what do you think my number 9 is?
I think your number 9 is a movie you also recommended me to watch, and I did not because I was too busy. But it's a movie you talked about a good amount this year, and I think that is Kneecap.
No. Okay, so there we go. I'll just say no.
Okay. There you go.
It is not my number 9. My number 9 is probably, I would say, my most quote unquote traditional pick. I talked about this many times before, but I'll reiterate. I'm doing my best to make my list my own. This is this is my list. It is like many others, but this one is mine, or whatever that quote is about the gun.
Right.
Yeah.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Thank you. Yes. So, without further ado, my number 9 is Challengers. It is, Is this, higher on your list?
It is higher on my list. So
okay, so I'll save it to then. Pause it.
Yes.
Okay. Derek, you're up for your number 9. I'm gonna go ahead, and I'm gonna guess that your number 9 is Drive Away Dolls.
Ooh, good guess. May or may not be higher on the list. We'll see. That mine is. What I'm guessing might be higher on your list, and that is this is the late in the game horror movie that I saw just the other day, and it is Nosferatu.
Not on my list, actually. I didn't.
Not on your list. So you're a dirty, rotten scoundrel because you very much hinted to me that this would be on your list. So, okay, all right. What a cheater. All right, all right.
I play dirty sometimes. Right. What can I say?
That's okay. Wow. Okay, what a
twist.
cheater.
What a twist. What a twist.
You like straight up told me that you like said something about like vampires. Maybe. You're like that or Dracula's, and you're like, that's a big hint. I'm like, okay, cool. All right.
All right.
Well, anyway, Nosferatu. Yeah. Saw this just recently. Last movie I got to see, and I'm a big fan of Robert Eggers. Think most of the years that I've been doing these top 10 lists, when he's come out with a movie, he's cracked the list. This is just pure gothic horror. On my podcast, which comes out in a week, but we already recorded, we talked about how gothic horror is, and these immaculate, dark, brooding period pieces with like beautiful women wearing these black gowns and a monster just going off, and these great character actors running around. You've got Willem Dafoe like, yes, if you want to defeat the vampire, you're gonna have to bounce on it, like that kind of crazy fucking shit. Stole that from a TikTok I saw. But it's really just, there's very few people who I would think would get the money to make a movie like this. Robert Eggers is one of them. It's weird. It's a remake of a classic black and white or even silent film, I should say, directed by my favorite silent film director, F.W. Murnau. Which itself was an unauthorized ripoff of Dracula. Yeah. So, that'll give you an idea of the spooky, weird vibes in this. You've got Nicholas Hoult doing his thing, Aaron Taylor Johnson being like, "Madame, how dare you besmirch my good name and my mustache?" You've got every one of these movies, you've got Ralph Ineson. Oh yes, he's got the best, deepest voice. So the subtitle of this, or the catchphrase of this, is "Succumb to the darkness," which is like very little. This movie is like basically, Do you have a terrible ex who just keeps sliding into your DMs and wants to fuck you? This is the ultimate example of that. But yeah, the vibes in this movie were immaculate. Just spooky ass castles and haunted people and fucking demons and the king of the rats getting his fucking stabbed in a coffin and shit like that. So like I said, this is pretty fresh for me. I did benefit from watching it with someone who was very into these vibes. So that was really cool. And the theater was a good like a packed, sold out theater. Like, I had to kind of sit in the front, like side, which I never like to do, because it was so packed, but very, very good movie going experience for this one. So yeah, Nosferatu at my number 8.
Nice, yeah. I love hearing the love of horror from you, appreciation of horror from you. Yeah. This is the first time we're convening since we've both seen this movie, so we can get to a little bit of spoiler talk if you like. Yeah. It's and we're also talking about this like a week after we talked about the Wolfman, the movie we're going to do for your podcast, and again, like I was saying there, alluded to a little bit. Gothic horror is back, baby. It's really well done, really well shot. Obviously, it's Robert Eggers does that thing so well, and I think we talked about like the allusions to the original, but also it has the rats. All those in that mausoleum, the rats are just everywhere, and I think it's safe to say that it was probably a lot of practical effects there. So that's always great to see.
Yeah, I saw a little bit behind the scenes, and Willem Dafoe was like, sometimes the rats they're creepy, but sometimes they do a little dance, and you love to see it.
Yeah, man. Aaron Taylor Johnson's fucking incredible in this. Emma Corrin is incredible in this, and my review was basically like it's pretty fucking sick that Robert Eggers made a whole ass movie about men's fear and repulsion of the female orgasm, which it's not wrong, not completely off base there. Just incredible. I love Bill Skarsgård doing that whole thing, and I think the makeup and all of that stuff is incredibly well done. And the use of negative space. I think there's one shot in this. I really want to see this movie just for this one shot of, I think it was like in the first third where you see, what's her name? The main actress in this.
Lily Rose Depp.
Yes. She's like they're doing the searchers shot where the person's coming out of a doorway, and it somehow transitions perfectly into Nosferatu coming out of his castle, I think, right? And it's just one of those moments where I'm like, what the fuck, did I just have a stroke? Did that just merge perfectly and I missed it? Like, that was an incredible shot. But obviously Robert Eggers does cinematography better than almost anyone, so just incredible. And like you said, I had a very similar theater going experience, packed house, and older. It was in Great Barrington, so it's older folks, and I think it really shook some of them. I had a woman sitting like 2 rows in front of me who was just cackling every time anything went awry, any sort of blood and guts. And I love these movies where it is that sort of Victorian Gothic romantic element, but then it's just violence out of kind of nowhere. I love that stuff.
Yeah, and this is like you said, I'm not always the biggest horror guy, but I do appreciate it, and especially this is 100% my horror. It's gothic horror, creepy, just spooky shit, just like incredible cinematography, just unsettling, unnerving, like mixing like disgusting stuff with like passion and pleasure and horror, and like just I love it. Much more than like a jump scare or like a body horror type thing. This is really my exact brand of horror. It's just like this immaculate, pristine, spooky shit,
Yes, indeed. And we can move on, but I just want to say one more thing. It's also very funny. I love the moments where I forget who it was. Was it Ralph Ineson, where he's like, I'm all out of ether, and I'm all out of ideas.
I fucking love that dude, man.
Yeah, very funny. All right, so that was your number 9, Nosferatu. So let's see, I did my number 9, but we have to move on from that, right?
Yes.
Said my number 9. So I kind of spoiled it a couple picks ago.
Yeah.
My number 8.
I have to still put out my guess.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
My guess is Civil War.
Oh, no. My number 8 is, again, I guess kind of traditional. It's probably on a lot of people's top 10 of the year if they're sickos. My number 8 is The Substance.
The Substance.
I'm Sue.
You're hired.
Let's go.
A perfect balance of 7 days each. The one and only thing not to forget. You are one. You can't escape from yourself.
There's been a slight...
Yes.
I mean, I knew that, but I had my list locked in. You know?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
I can't be cheating and be like, oh, I guess it's The Substance. Like, I have my picks already locked in.
You have some level.
I'm a man of integrity,
of
unlike you, with your throwing out of the Nosferatu.
The tease. It was a little teasy there. Yeah. Anyways, so yes, The Substance, incredible. Coralie Forjat's follow up to Revenge. I don't know if you've seen The Revenge, but that was from 2017. As the title suggests, it was a rape revenge film, incredibly bloody, incredibly gross film from 2017. Back again with another incredibly gross and also, we mentioned it when we talked about it last time, but very on the nose and very in your face and very not subtle about any of its themes or ideas that it's working with, and I loved it for that. Dennis Quaid being the fucking real life weirdo he is, that just makes this movie so much more gross. His performance so much more gross and so much more believable, and so much more off-putting than it even was with that close-up shots of him eating shrimp over and over again. And then coming back after a long hiatus to be putting in one of the best performances I've seen in a very long time. And my indie darling Margot Qualley, doing her thing again, her weird ass thing again. Yeah. Just
a Nepo baby I appreciate a little bit more than Lily Rose Depp, but
yeah, I would say so. In obviously going all the way back to The Leftovers, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, just like, again, this is my shit. I'm a fucking body horror gremlin, fucking weirdo dude, and they made body horror sicko, and they made, but on top of all that, they made a really fucking good one of those. So hats off to you. Hats off to everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll say some good stuff about it too, because this is a movie I said I didn't hate this movie at all by any means. Because this is a movie that absolutely stuck with me. This is a movie I'm still thinking about. So it absolutely accomplished that. There's still images and things that happen in this movie that I think about at least once every couple days, because it's just so intense and in your face and disturbing. So it really accomplished that. Just great acting performances, particularly from Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore, Demi Moore is incredible in this. And I really was very, very much engaged, especially in the first 2/3 of the movie. It's one of those movies that just kind of like, hey, it's like, here's a thing. What would it be like if this thing existed? And really runs with that concept. So I got to give it props for just taking the biggest possible of all swings. And it didn't connect for me on all of those aspects, but it really connected with a lot of people. And God, this movie, it looks so good. We're talking about how good Nosferatu looks. This is in a very different way. Looks good in that body horror way that will like stick with you. And there's all these intense visuals and just how green the substance itself looks. Just how disgusting like all these things are. Just they're all of practical stuff that is constantly throughout this movie. Just a weird, bizarre roller coaster of a movie for sure.
Yeah, it takes a lot of talent to make ugliness beautiful, or make ugliness palpable, I guess, a little bit, right? Yeah, palpable, yeah. So that was my number 8. So we're moving on to your number 8, and I will guess that your number 8 is The Fall Guy.
Interesting guess. No, it is actually another movie from early in the summer. This one was actually my number 1 most anticipated movie of the year, and that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Kingdom. We will learn. Apes will learn. I will learn.
Oh, such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And I will conquer.
Interesting.
Yeah. Big. You know, I'm a big Apes fan. So you know, I loved like this. Well, not so much the older films, but the Caesar trilogy, as it's kind of come to be known, was perfect. This is exactly what I would want from a continuation of this franchise. That story is done. Now this is hundreds of years later. We'll see what society has grown from that. You know, what's the legacy of Caesar that these characters have to grapple with. It does a lot of interesting things. You know, it has these characters kind of go on this journey, meeting this really interesting villain played by Kevin Durant, like Proximus Caesar. You know, you have Noah kind of going on a fairly typical hero's journey for like a YA hero, but he's got his like, you know, these are apes that are teaching, like they were like birding, like hawking or like falconer apes, which is very interesting. Really great performances in this. Think that, you know, Freya Allen's character, May, her dynamic with Caesar is very interesting, and I'm really curious to see what this does. It's going to cap off probably a new trilogy. It's an interesting movie about legacy, right? Because this is dealing with the legacy of both of Caesar, but in a meta context of the Apes films. You know, these films that in themselves were already, a reboot of a franchise that had already been remade once, and it was like, you know, these things in the 80s, and how the legacy of that is going to be carried forward now that, you know, it's under the ownership of Disney. Wes Ball, who is a director that I was a big fan of, he did the the Maze Runner trilogy. Was a big fan of that. That was really his only big thing under the belt, and then out of that he got basically two of the things I was most excited to see in this, and he's going to make the Zelda movie. And after seeing this, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm still have high hopes for that Zelda movie. But yeah, this is, as far as just big franchise filmmaking goes, I think this kind of is what I wanted to see this year. I didn't really get it from a lot of the superhero films. I got it here, and I really quite enjoyed it. And I think other than maybe my #1 pick, I think it's the most rewatchable film, and it's definitely the most accessible film of, I think, anything on this list. Almost definitely.
Yeah, it was, you know, we talked about early on, we talked about the beginning of the show about, you know, how big budget movies, blockbusters really fell flat this year in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're right. This is one of the ones that sort of bucked that trend. I loved the construction of it. I think they did a huge breakdown of this on Corridor Crew. They didn't just do like, you know, Artist React or whatever. They did a whole episode about it because it was, you're right, that whole technology of, you know, face mapping and all that stuff's been around for a while, but I think it's done some of the best in the Apes movies. So it is really good to see, you know, a movie doing that on that level of construction and of production and of all of that stuff of artistry on that level. And then on top of that, they told a really good story and really well acted, and loved all that stuff.
Very nice. Huh? Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I will always have that memory of, you know, us meeting that first day in Comic-Con, of going to the pop-up, right, of the Planet of the Apes thing, and meeting Brandon Davis and his whole crew there. So that was fun day as well.
That was cool, and yeah, we got to see Terry Notaro. I might be mispronouncing his name, but he did a lot of. He basically he did some mocap stuff, but he was also the person who, you know, taught Andy Serkis how to move like an ape, and then taught a lot of the actors in this how to move like an ape, and he was doing that there. So it was a really cool experience. We got to be there, you know, with a lot of The industry people were there. I got in, because of the podcast and because of the panel. So that was really cool. Get some nice complimentary drinks, which are always nice. And it was nice. It was a good time. Good way to kick off Comic-Con for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So that was your number 8, right?
Yes. Number 8. So now I'm guessing you're number 7.
Yes.
Obviously this is not accurate because you had already played it, but my guess was going to be challengers for number 7. So what is actually your number 7?
Yeah. So again, kind of a repeat, not a repeat, but like a similar vibe. My number 7 is Strange Darling.
Do you have any idea the kind of risks a woman like me takes every time she agrees to have a little fun?
Never thought about it that way.
Of course you haven't. You're not a woman. You seem like a nice guy. But the real issue is safety. That's life or death. So I'm gonna have to ask you a question. Are you a serial killer?
What did you just say?
Yes, very interesting thriller. I think Kyle Gallner going forward is going to be one of those guys that we kind of talk about as being somewhere between a leading man and a character actor, a leading man and a supporting actor. I definitely think he's doing some of his best work as a sort of co-lead with Willa Fitzgerald here. I think she is doing some of her best work and some of the best acting I've seen this year in any sort of context, in any, not just a thriller, not just as a genre movie, but some of the best acting I've seen this year, just overall. Very interesting written movie, very interesting presented its story out of order, and I think that gives the audience, puts the audience on its back foot. Like I said when I talked about this the first time, I think it's talking about, you mentioned rewatchability. I think this has a lot of rewatchability in terms of going back and saying, okay, now I know all the twists, I know all the reveals and all that stuff. Now I can go back and watch it again and see if there's any clues to what actually happened, and sort of if there's any way to tell where it was going from the beginning. So yeah, really, really incredible. I think it's one of his first features, J.T. Molnir. Let me see. He's done a few things, but yeah, one of his breakout movies this year was Strange Darling. Highly recommend this. Don't believe it's streaming anywhere, but you can definitely rent it on the YouTubes and Amazons and all those places.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, this is one I can't unfortunately speak to because I did not get a chance to see this one, but yeah, it's on my list for sure.
Yes, that's my number 7. Moving on to your number 7. So I think your number 7 is a movie that you talked a little bit about way back earlier in the year. You recommended I check this out, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was contending to fight into the top 10 of my list. Didn't quite make it, but I think your number 7 is Orion in the Dark.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Good guess. I love Charlie Kaufman. That was an animated movie from Charlie Kaufman, animated kids movie. But my pick is a different animated kids movie, and that is The Wild Robot.
Do you need assistance? Aggression detected. I see your problem. Processing language.
You need to learn how things work on this island.
So this is a movie that comes from Chris Sanders, who is probably most famous for directing the How to Train Your Dragon film and producing those films, along with Lilo and Stitch. And this movie is just as special and magical as those films are, especially How to Train Your Dragon, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. This is a truly unique kids film in more ways than one. In its look, it looks like almost like a water, like not water, but like a painted. It's very, it doesn't have that Pixar look that we're all used to when it comes to animated films. It looks very unique. It's this interesting story of, it's animals, talking animals, but they're a lot fiercer and more not realistic, but they're talking animals that are trying to eat and kill each other while still being cute talking animals. It's this great movie about And you, being the commie that you are, would love that this is a movie about like a community coming together against like these evil corporate capitalistic powers, and this film about kind of going against your programming, going against what you have been set to do in your life, and finding your own purpose, really. This is a movie that I absolutely cried in. I was sitting in the back by myself watching this kid's movie, and I was like, am I fucking crying right now? There's like a 12-year-old like 5 seats down from me, but I thought it was phenomenal. Everything about this, Lupita Nyong'o as the titular robot, Roz, as she's known, is really great. You've got Pedro Pascal as a sneaky fox, so like it's just a lot of fun. Great voice acting. Matt Berry is like, I'm a sassy beaver, like it's really really a lot of fun. Mark Hamill's in this, Ving Rhames, Kathleen O'Hara. So if you got kids, absolutely watch this. If you don't have kids like me and Damien, I think it's still really worth a watch. It will absolutely bring out your inner child watching this movie. Really surprised me on how much I loved this one.
Yeah, I went to this again, like you said, without knowing much about it at all. Very much surprised me as well. Harkens back to those movies like what is it, The Iron Giant. It's very much like that of a thing, just trying to be helpful and being attacked for trying to be hurt, for trying to be helpful and try to bring camaraderie and try to bring community and try to tell others to, hey, you're different, but you don't have to fight each other because of it. It's a tale as old as time, a cautionary tale as old as time, but still rings true today. It looks incredible. Great voice acting, like you said, and came out of nowhere. And I think this is one of those movies that, people say where are all these movies? Where are the animated movies? Where are the original animated movies that have a great message, that look great? It's right here. It's right in front of you. So go seek out The Wild Robot. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yes, that was your number 7.
My number 7. So on to your number 6. And my guess for your number 6 is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Not correct. I think, I did. Is this the one? No, I didn't spoil this one. I think I only spoiled the substance, right, of being somewhere, away
you don't have to talk. We're not talking about Furiosa. We're talking about your pick. Don't say if it's higher or not on your pick, David.
Okay, so
you're not getting the concept of it, despite you being the one who invented it.
My number 6 is not Furiosa. Okay. My number 6 was mentioned previously. My number 6 is Kneecap.
Tell me something about you. Something you've never told anyone else.
I'm a rapper. There are 80,000 native Irish speakers in Ireland.
Ní fac, I chéad gan teanga ach lá náisiún.
3 of us have become rappers.
You may know the words, but you don't understand the language.
There's one you've real for horse from Kyo. George go studio again. Well, because rent beats. Can you like? Well, you hear Abbey Roadie? Abbey what? Arbor Shore Boys and Roland 808. You understand, right?
Don't believe you got around to seeing this yet, did you?
I unfortunately did not.
Yes.
Did not.
Yes. Again, incredibly original film from Northern Ireland about, people being oppressed and fighting back against that in very imaginative and inventive ways. This is a story about 2 Belfast rappers and their teacher, who gives them, the tech. He sees them rap and he's like, hey, I got a little recording studio that you guys can record in, and we'll put out mixtapes and we'll see what happens. And lo and behold, they become massive stars in their, massive relative, right, in their community and in their country, and go on to tour. And this movie stars those exact people. So it's that rare thing of, the people that the movie is about are in it, and they act incredibly well. Very entertaining, very funny, very charismatic. They rap in their mother tongue, which I believe when we talked about it was just called Irish, right? Just the native language of Ireland is just called Irish, correct?
I guess so. I'm like looking at the Letterboxd page right now, trying to find languages, but I'm not seeing it. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very, very good. Very, original.
Yeah, primary language Irish. So yeah.
Yeah. So again, movie about a culture and a story and a people and, story of fighting back against oppression in their own way. I think they do talk about them being these people in their early 20s being some of the first generation once removed from the Troubles and that era, but still having to push back against oppression in their own way, in their own lives. So yeah, highly recommend checking out Kneecap. It is apparently streaming right now on Netflix. So if you still have that, if you're still paying whatever it is, I don't even know anymore. What is it, like $21, $23 a month, something like that? So
I don't know. I don't have it. So
yeah. So if you do have
they're not letting me stream off my mom's anymore. So thanks a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, if you do have Netflix, highly recommend checking out Kneecap.
All right. Excellent. Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to check this out. You gave me some movies. You gave me some movie homework.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll watch at least one of these, and I did.
Good.
So,
nice. All right.
One I think might be higher on your list. So yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool. All right. So that was my number 6. Derek, we're up to your number 6.
That's correct.
And my guess that I locked in. I'm not cheating. My guess was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Obviously not that. So tell me in the audience, what is your number 6 movie of 2024?
My number 6 pick of 2024 is The Little Movie That Could. Like Kneecap, which was a small movie. This one's a small movie, but a very different one. That is the absolute clusterfuck of a just Looney Tunes ass silent film ridiculous thing. Hundreds of beavers. Yeah.
Fair to say your most unconventional pick ever.
I mean, it's very unconventional, but it's great. I mean, I've heard it at least in a couple other top 10s of the year. I really dug this movie. I've seen it I saw it like 2.5 times this year. Didn't finish it one of the times when I was watching it at home, but I saw it twice in theaters. And seeing this thing, especially on a theater, is so great. This is just a madcap of a movie. Very, very indie, very low budget. It's just a couple psychopaths going out into the wilderness with a bunch of beaver suits and just to After Effects and someone they found off of TikTok who could do a stripper dance, so she's in the movie. And she's incredible, Olivia Graves. But this movie from Mike Cheslick, just it's been done since 2022, been in a lot of festivals and stuff like that, making the rounds. It's showing in a lot of indie theaters. If you live out in SoCal, try to see it at the Frida. It's been playing there a few times. I've seen it there twice already, like I mentioned. Just zany shit, this movie. And it's also an incredibly film literate movie. There's reference, watching it, especially the second time, I was like, oh, that's a reference I didn't catch before. There's everything from, the aforementioned Looney Tunes to, Return of the Jedi to, The Thief and the Cobbler. There's so many, it's so intense. There's so many, this is what I'll say about the movie. This is what it ultimately boils down to. This film is an absolute masterclass in payoff, or in setup and payoff, right? Every joke is perfectly set up. It's a great joke initially. You're like, that's very, very funny. And then it all comes back. And then it comes back again in a way that twists it even further. And it does that continually over the course of the film so many times. My only complaint is that it feels like it goes on a little bit long, but when you're in the theater watching it and everyone's bursting up, dying, laughing, you don't notice that, It's so stupid, but in the smartest possible way.
Yes. Wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, it's interesting, just the originality of it, the idea of just doing it, the the what do you call that? Like the not the inventiveness, but the ingenuity of doing this.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
outside of the studio system, doing all that stuff and doing it well. You know, just really, really cannot recommend this movie enough. I don't. Let me see. You know what? I actually didn't rank it at all. I have a list here. I'll talk about this later, but I have a list like Sean Finney made of like his top like 80 movies of the year. So I don't have that many, but I have a lot on there. And it's one of those I forgot to rank, but it's
I think
definitely.
it's because it's listed as a 2022 movie because it came out in some festivals.
That's probably
which
why.
Is dumb, but it's definitely a 2024 movie. But
absolutely. Yeah. So it's a very good pick. Your number 6, Hundreds of Beavers. So we are up to my number 5. Derek, what do you think my number 5 movie of the
you
year
already
is?
told me it's wrong because you told me that you're gonna like, hey, here's a Dracula film. It's a hint. So I thought Nosferatu. That was my guess for you. So.
Okay. No, not Nosferatu. Not a movie about a scary dude at night. My movie is about scary men in leather jackets. My number 5 movie of 2024 is The Bike Riders.
I'm thinking of starting a riding club.
Why? All those clubs do is sit around talking about motorcycles.
That's what we do. You don't belong nowhere else, so they belong together. But you're the man in charge. I'm Johnny. We're the Vandals.
I'm Ben. I like you guys.
Movie directed by Jeff Nichols, starring Austin Butler, Jodie Comer, an amazing, like half Baltimore, half Pennsylvanian accent. Tom Hardy doing his thing, Michael Shannon doing his thing. One of two, Mike Feist. I think, just two. Mike Feist performances this year. Our guy Boyd Holbrook in another great performance this year. Incredible cast, really incredibly well written, and this is my shit. This is interesting because it's acting. There's a few things I love. You know, it's the genre stuff, it's the horror stuff, body horror. But at the end of the day, what really gets me going, what really gets my motor revving, as they say, is really interesting acting and really well written dialogue, and that dialogue being delivered by some of the best actors working today, and that's what this movie has, especially with the scene between Tom Hardy and Austin Butler. I think Jeff Nichols talked about this many times. It's a fairly famous anecdote. How do you say that word? Anecdote. Thank you. About the making of this movie, where Tom Hardy was just like moving in closer and closer, and they hadn't planned for that, so they hadn't lit the scene for this, and they also hadn't blocked it. So you have, like, I think he said another like 2 inches, and the boom mic would have been visible in the shot. It delivers one of the best scenes I've ever seen. I've seen acted this year between Tom Hardy and Austin Butler. Yeah, just incredible. The Bike Riders, my number 5 of the year. I believe you can rent this on Amazon right now. So.
Yeah. I think it's if you have Prime, it's streaming. So
streaming on Prime. Gotcha.
You can rent it.
Yes, you can stream that thing on Prime right now.
As I said when we talked about this is a real masterclass of actors who love to do weird voices. You got Tom Hardy, he's doing his thing. You know, you got Austin Butler, and you got Jodie Comer, she's doing her thing, and then Michael Shannon's there too. You know, so like it's a real fucking Mount Rushmore of these guys.
Norman Reedus doing his thing.
Norman Reedus, yeah.
Incredible. So that was my number 5. So moving on to your number 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Top 5 of 2024. Derek,
and they'll say this. My top 5 from here on. These are all 5-star films. These are all fucking masterpiece bangers.
Certified fucking bangers. Derek, I think your number 5 of the year is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, okay. It is not. My number 5 is a film that is maybe even more poignant and important than when it came out early in the year, and that is Alex Garland's Civil War. Right. This is a movie we talked about at length. This is higher.
That's okay.
Oh, right. Yep, I'll put a pin in it then. I'll put a pin and we'll have we'll have our discussion then.
Yes.
Because you want to talk about it in this weird order for some reason, so I'll hold off on discussing
Sure.
it.
Yes. All right. So we can do that. We'll table that for later. All right. Okay. So moving on to my number 4, right? Yeah.
Your number 4, yes. Okay. Well, I'm wondering if I might be one off on a lot of the rest of your lists because I had the Bike Riders at number 4. So.
Oh, nice. Good choice. Good pick. Good guess. Nice. All right. So no, my number 4 is not Bike Riders. My number 4 may be higher on your list. My number 4 is Inside Out 2.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Okay.
It is not. So go ahead and talk about it.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Incredibly. It's. I think it's a movie that I necessarily wasn't like, okay, this is going to be as good as the original, because the original is one of those, it just seems like one of those not concepts, but story they told, beginning, middle, and end. Right. I don't know if you could say that about things like Toy Story or. A lot of the other movies that have had sequels. I think Inside Out just seemed like, such a contained story and such a seminal story and such a, personal story. But yeah, it's incredible that they managed to actually, pull it off and tell a very good story and a very good, not addendum, but continuation of Riley's story. And to, include some of that stuff that you start thinking about when you get to that age of, feeling left out and feeling like, you don't know what to do with your hands and just feeling like, you don't feel up to the task. You don't feel, other people are so cool. That's the point at which you're like, oh my God, this person is so fucking cool and their clique is so cool and I'm just so lame. And so that really got to the heart of it. And yeah, just very much I can relate to a lot of that stuff where, her childhood is ending, which they, got to a little bit with Bing Bong in the first one, but definitely here where, you kind of have the emotions coming in and establishing themselves. They're going to be there for the rest of your life, especially with anxiety. That is just starts when you're around that age and just keeps fucking going. And so, yeah, deeply, deeply relate to so much of this movie and so much of her, experience in that movie and so much of her emotions. So, yeah. My number 4 is Inside Out 2 on all the things. Disney Plus, all the things.
This is a movie I quite enjoyed. The first one was one of my favorite movies of that decade, and I really liked this one. It didn't quite live up to that first one, but I still really loved it. You talked about how anxiety is a big part of this movie. And I went in this movie expecting to be emotionally racked. And I was, but not by the emotion that I expected. I expected to be like, okay, the first one is a movie that can make me cry no matter what. It's a movie about sadness and about how important sadness is. And this is a movie about where anxiety is a character, is the kind of antagonist almost. And so this is a movie that made me feel very, very anxious throughout a lot of the film. I think it's an incredible follow-up to that first one. A little bit disappointed that Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader were not back. But other than that, not a lot of major complaints. I think it did an impossible thing by following up a near perfect movie and making a very, very solid sequel. So like this a lot. Was one that worked for me. It made a fucking $2 billion, something insane. Like it was the number 1 movie of the year.
Yeah.
So wild that because we knew it was going to be successful, but we didn't know it was going to be that successful. So yeah, just another great addition to the Pixar canon.
Yeah, and I just want to say I have a lot of sort of I just had the word in my head, sort of just out there picks, kind of obscure, kind of indie, kind of weird, and this is definitely one of the most traditional movies I have on my top 5. But we'll get to that later. There's another one that might be also very not safe, but very populist pick. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was this is like we talked about with when I talked about Planet of the Apes. There was not a lot of big franchisey stuff on my list. This is not one that made it, but it was a very good franchise film.
Yes, indeed. So that was my number 4. Moving on to your number 4, right? Or no?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
number 4. So, my guess for you, I was going through all your lists and going through things you've watched this year, and was looking at your 5, movies I got 4.5, 5 stars, and this is one of them. And I think you really liked, and you put it number 4, film Alien Romulus.
Oh, it is not. My film that I picked for number 4 is Conclave.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
What happened? They say a heart attack.
You know how rumor spreads, and 1.25 billion souls watching.
Well Cardinal Lawrence. It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you. The supervision of this election is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform. They are sequestered, and they must be shielded from all news.
Another film that I talked about quite a bit, and this is a movie that I was really surprised me that I liked it this much. It was not really on my radar when I first heard of it. I thought it was like a kind of Da Vinci Code-esque thing, and I thought it was gonna be kind of cheesy or whatever. But this movie knocked me off my feet. This is obviously a movie about the conclave to select the new pope. After the Pope has died, all of the cardinals get together and are sequestered. And this is just a who's who of great character actors. You've got Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, the Tucci himself playing, I would think the Pope should be a woke Pope. And this guy fucking sucks. This one fucking Italian dude, he's a dickhead. And I'm the Tucci, and I write about food sometimes. And then you've got John Lithgow, and he's just like, I'm kind of shitty, but not as shitty as this other guy. And then you have Isabella Rossellini, and, this is, I think... It's just a really taut, great political thriller with all these really fascinating religious overtones. It's also this really interesting dive into good and evil in institutions and the way that these institutions that are purporting to be like good and help people are just as corrupt as anything else, and what the people within them have to do. And I also saw this movie. And this definitely affected my viewing of the film on January 6th, a day after democracy failed us so completely. So it was nice to live in a fantasy world where democracy actually could work, because, spoiler alert, the end of this film, where you have like this character who's been kind of in the sidelines, and we were like, okay, something's going to happen with this guy. And he kind of becomes the literal innocent pope, and it becomes this thing where they're defeating the patriarchy quite literally, because you have this person who is, spoilers again for the film, so skip ahead if you don't want to hear this, but this person who is intersex, who becomes the pope when, women aren't even allowed to, are literally kind of pushed to the side in the whole film. So just absolutely, from start to finish, I was on the edge of my seat. I was another film where I was just crying, because I was like, really, after seeing in the real world how badly it can go when you leave things up for democracy. As I love democracy, to quote my boy Palpatine. But it's still like any other system. It can be fallible. People can still do the wrong things, and that almost happens a number of times in this movie. But to see it ultimately at the end get walked back and for good to prevail, and there's a speech that happens at the end of this movie about decency and caring about the other, and instead of looking at these people who are not aligned with you religiously or by the color of your skin or your sexual orientation or whatever it might be, to accept them, to love them, and to not be turn the other cheek. So I found this to be an absolutely profound film that I was not anticipating at all.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. Yeah, I didn't have it on my list. It's pretty not too far out of my top 10, but yeah, I thought it was really well staged, really well shot, really well acted. And yeah, everything you said about being incredibly relevant. And yeah, just to have that unfortunate, like you mentioned Palpatine, it's like somehow Trump has returned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's really just, like you said, you going into this, right? It was like, okay, is this going to be some schlocky thriller, mystery thing about, okay, there's some weird goings on in the back rooms of offices of the Vatican that we're going to try to have to untangle very dryly, and it's not that. This thing moves at every moment of this movie. You're invested in. There's never a dull moment. Really captivated by this movie. Really on the edge of my seat. Really, there are just moments, especially the the bombing outside of the cathedral and the thing coming, the glass blowing in, and the idea of the outside world coming in here. And you definitely feel that when, I think later on, there's that moment where they vote again and the window was blown out, it wasn't replaced. So you just have air, breeze coming through there. And it's very incredible, visual metaphor for what was going on in the church at that time, in this specific story about this
Right.
fictitious church. Yes. Very, very good film. Very, very good film.
Yeah. Glad you enjoyed it as much as I did, because I think you were the one who initially kind of turned me onto it. So that I was very glad to see it, and it's been getting some awards buzz. So I hope that this film can do very well with the Academy.
Yeah, let me just see if it is. I believe it might be on the premium VOD or whatever it is right now. It's coming.
Yeah, I know it's out. I know it's out on. Yeah, and you can stream it on Peacock.
Peacock. There we go. Everybody got.
You got the cock.
You got the cock. You get the conclave. All right. So with that is your number 4. All right. So getting to our number 3s, top 3s of the year. Derek, what do you think my number 3 of the year is?
I think your number 3 is Dune Part 2.
Not correct. It is one you mentioned, you talked about, and I said, let's hold off on that. So, wait, no. Yes, sorry. Did you say, you said Civil War, right? You were about to talk about Civil War?
I did say Civil War. Yes, Civil War was my number 5, so we can talk about it now.
Yeah, again, there's some lighthearted discussions here, bud. Let's get into it. Civil War, Alex Garland's sort of comeback after Men, that thing that sort of landed flat with many people. I would say most people. Obviously starring Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Kelly Spaney, just popping out here in 2024 with this, and Alien Romulus. Who else was in this? Obviously Nick Offerman. Who was? Oh yeah, Stephen McKinley Henderson. I believe he was also in Devs, which you also talked about last year. Yes, just I think timely is accurate, but it's also one of those things where people have been talking about Civil War and the divisions in this country being at an all-time high, and I think somehow tensions are even higher than they used to be. And yeah, I think this is a near future story about America. Deep. I don't know how many years into the Civil War it's been, but it's been a long time, and it's a movie I think people went into thinking, okay, this is going to be a action movie, war action movie. It's going to be something like that, and it ended up being about photojournalism and recording those events and being the eyes and the ears, documenting that stuff. And I think we talked a little bit about when we talked about September 5 about how the media is almost as important as it's almost another arm of the government at a certain point, and who's telling those stories and the perspective that they have and the context they give and the voices that are chosen to be shown. And yeah, it's incredible, love letter to photojournalism. Just overall, I believe another movie that came out this year that I've yet to see, Lee, with Kate Winslet, I think, is about, right? The person that's mentioned in Civil War, right? Yeah. Correct.
Kirsten, yes.
Kirsten Dunst, plays a photographer named Lee. And yeah, it's hard to watch, but it's also one of those things that you're like, yeah, I think he made it the best he could, as entertaining as he could, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to put butts in seats and you got to have people coming to it to make another film, whatever that's going to be. I think Warfare is his next one, so it's back to back, war movies for him. But yeah, Civil War, just the sound design, the production design. Again, speaking about that stuff, the lighting was incredible. I think some of the best well shot action set pieces I've seen this year was in Civil War. So highly recommend this movie. I believe it is now streaming on Max, the one to watch for HBO.
Yes, HBO Max, lose the HBO, it's cleaner. But yeah, like I said, this was also in my top five-star movie. Could have been number one, if things had been shuffled around. That's how good all these top five are. And this is I think, brilliant film. The film that I think people were expecting to say something different, and I think that's why it got a little bit pushed back a little bit against some people, because I thought people were just going to expect it to be just straight up just denouncing Trump, but it was more about, that's all, like, in the sidelines, dictators, these strong men who are, like, as they kind of put it, they will always disappoint you in the end. They don't really have anything interesting to say. Mussolini didn't have anything interesting to say. But it is really, I think, ultimately about the way that, viewing these things, whether it be, it's their photojournalists in this case, but we are all, since Vietnam, and especially with the rise of the internet, viewing these atrocities daily. And what has that done to us? It might as well be happening here, because we're all just kind of sitting and watching, and it could be happening down the street, or it could be happening half the world away, but we're all watching it. And what we are, this photojournalists, in the end, spoiling the end of this movie, when Kaylee Spaney just watches, her friend die, when Kirsten Dunst's lead character has some humanity, and she's the one who photographs it. It's a really powerful, poignant film about capturing these things. I think it's also interesting, the way you have characters that are shooting digitally, and some using, actual film stock, which is, I think, interesting for a filmmaker to put that into the movie. But yeah, this movie has a lot to say just about war and human nature and stuff like that. Much deeper than, I think, a just simple, hey, there is a specific dictator that is happening in this country right now. And I think that will make this film age incredibly well. It will not feel like, hey, this is just a rebuke of Trump. This is a rebuke of war and the way these strong men come into power, and people's responses, and like all these atrocities. And yeah, I really, and you can apply it to things that are happening now, things that have happened in the past, and I'm sure things will happen in the future.
Yes, exactly. And one more thing I just sort of remind me of when we talk about, how we tell the stories and who gets to tell them. Very similar to, Killers of the Flower Moon, where I think that ending of that was very much about how these things are framed, who tells them, and the impact that it can have.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first crossover we've had. This is the first one that's been on both of our lists, right?
It is, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, you're number 3. You're up, right?
Yes. I'm up. So you got to guess.
Yeah. So my guess for you, for your number 3, is your guess for me, for my number 3. Yes. Dune Part 2.
All right. Good guess, but no. You are I think this is on neither of our lists, interestingly enough, because we both had it 3.
Yep.
But did not make the list. My number 3 is Rose Glass's lesbian semi-like fantasy, like light fantasy crime thriller.
Give us a call.
Where did you appear from?
Oklahoma.
I've never been anywhere but here. What were you doing with that big girl?
Get a lot of crazy-ass foreigners, mostly. How's it going, guys? This here's Jackie.
Hi.
She needs a job. Says she'll do anything.
Yeah, you like guns?
Not really.
Starring Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien. That is about these bodybuilders who fall in love, and it's just so weird and bizarre, and it's sexy in all these really interesting ways. It's just dirty. Ed Harris shows up with his fucking mullet, and Dave Franco is there, and he sucks so much, and it's just about murder and intrigue, and there's all these twists and turns, and K-Stu is doing so much, and Katie O'Brien is just announces herself on the screen just fucking incredible performance. But yeah, this is basically Be Gay Do Crime the movie. Like, I fucking loved this movie. Could not get enough of it. I feel like this is one that I really, of all the movies on my list that I wanted to rewatch, that I have not rewatched at all this year, I wanted to rewatch this. Almost watched it last night, but did not have a chance to do that. So yeah, I cannot recommend Love Lies Bleeding enough.
Very nice. Yeah, with Nosferatu and not The Substance, right? Your Substance was not on your list, correct?
Not so much, no.
So yeah, with Nosferatu in this one, very much, yeah, speaks to me. Thank you for shutting this one out. I don't have it on my list, but yeah, it's all that stuff. It's such a, Kristen Stewart is such a fucking gem. Done so much amazing work since the Twilight movies. There's that moment I talked about when we talked about it earlier this year where, she's walking into her apartment and that woman she met, her brains just go all over her. And it was shot in such an interesting way that you're like, again, not sure what happened. You're pulling the viewer in, just like I was mentioning with Strange Darling. With stuff like that, you're, pulling the viewer in and putting them, having them sit forward and be like, what just happened? Hold on.
It's a great fucking thriller.
It's a great thriller. Like I said, Ed Harris is incredible in this. What else was I going to say?
And also it just makes you question who you're rooting for. You're like, I'm rooting for these people, but are they actually really, really bad people? Like, I know the people they're going up against are worse, but they are not good either. Like, but I like them and I relate to them. But so it's great. It's like all great thrillers do, I think.
Yeah, you're mentioning, Be Gay, Do Crime. It's a 2024 Thelma and Louise. It's Bonnie and Clyde. It's those classic, crime duos of the last decade, of the last century, and just brought to now the 2020 version of all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. So that was your number 3, up to 2 now. Derek, what do you think my number 2 is?
I think that your number 2 is Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person.
Il n'y a plus de pochette.
Ouais, je sais, ta mère y va tantôt.
C'est pas vrai que c'est moi qui vais chasser pour tout le monde pendant 200 ans.
Quoi, c'est moi qui est allé lundi.
Bravo.
C'est la compassion de votre fille qui est stimulée quand elle voit des gens mourir, pas sa faim.
L'ego, ça se développe. Tu vas voir, tu vas finir par aimer ça.
J'ai pas besoin de tuer du monde pour savoir que j'aimerais pas ça.
T'es tues peut-être pas, Sacha, mais t'es manges pareil.
T'as juste à choisir ton préféré. Je vais te l'accrocher puis je vais te montrer comment le
Spot on. Spot on, my boy.
All right, that means I'm also going to get your number 1. Hell yeah.
Yeah, of course. This is locked in from day one when I first saw it.
You were like, this is going to be number 2 movie of the year, locked in.
It really was. It literally has sat in my number 2 spot since I want to say like April. Yeah, just you saw this too, so we can actually talk about this together.
Yeah, I watched this. You gave me a list of movies, and I was like, I'm going to watch this one because I know this one is going to be the highest on his list.
Yeah. So let's dig into it. Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person, not just in words, but the word I was trying to think of before. This fits it perfectly. Idiosyncratic. It is peculiar. It's individualistic. The pacing of it, it's got so many things I love. Like I said, it was Ghost World. It's like Jim Jarmusch. It's like Wes Anderson. It's like that awkward comedy and romance and the longing that I know you like. It's got longing in there. Yeah.
I love longing.
Yeah. And, it's a genre film. It's vampires. I love that shit. Some of my favorite movies are vampire movies. They just talked about this on the Big Pick, talking about Nosferatu and going through their 10 favorite vampire movies from just overall. I would say I've seen many, many vampire movies, and, this has, This has elements, and it brings in stuff like Let the Right One In, very quiet, very moody. It has that Nosferatu thing with the pace of it and the quietness of it. interesting, again, interesting idea of having very Harold and Maude, of having an older vampire, very old vampire trying to woo a younger person, the younger person just being incredibly awkward, having a very, again, let the right one in, of him being bullied at school and her sort of avenging him in her own way, but also having that, I think you mentioned on Letterboxd, like, are the Fangs boners? And yeah, in some way it is. In some way it is. You can't perform in that way. Yeah, just I love the music, the chicka-like-a-yeah. It got stuck in my head for days afterwards. Yeah, great performance. One of probably the number one movie I recommend.
Oh, so that's what you were fucking talking. I don't even remember that part of the movie. So I was like, what? I just thought you. Okay, all right. That was what he said. Listen, dear listeners, he sent me a text that said Dracula. Yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So he means Nosferatu. But it was actually a little sneaky thing.
Little sneaky thing, yeah.
I do not remember that at all. So
yeah, I think it was like the closing, the song they played over the credits. Yeah. Again, yeah, the music too.
A little too cute by half, but okay.
Okay, all right. Well, that's just.
I mean, your clue, not the movie.
Very good. Love. Yeah, like I was gonna say. Of the movies I recommend people, just in general, this is the one that most people have not seen or even heard of. So I like I like feeling special in that way. So
of course, that's that very hipster of you.
That's such my thing.
This is a very, very Damian coded movie. I am not. Yeah, it was. I knew this was going to be your number two only because I knew what your number one is going to be. And I feel like another year this will probably be a number one for you. But yeah, very Damian coded. I had a lot of fun watching this. It's a French film, and it's got like you said, the Harold and Maude, just kind of like the awkward glances, and these two kind of like awkwardly falling in love. She's sipping on like a little blood bag, and it takes this concept that we all know very well of vampire and does something really interesting and different and fascinating with that. And I know that that's been the thing for vampires. It's like, how many ways can we reinterpret and reshape, and what other lens can we view them through? And this finds an actually interesting lens to view them through. It's like, okay, well, yeah, a vampire sees somebody who's trying to die, commit, suicide. So she's a humanist. She is opposed to killing humans and stuff like that. So that's an interesting take. And it does.
Interesting.
Yes, exactly. And it runs with that take, and it doesn't ever overstay its welcome. It's 91 minutes. So, I think right length for this kind of, quirky little indie movie. So I had a good time watching this for sure.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me with that.
Of course.
Yes. All right. My number two was that. Derek, we are up to your number two film. I will guess your number two film of the year is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Bing, bing, bing. You got it. Dead on the money. I think we're going to both get nail our top two for both of us.
Yep.
Yes. Furiosa.
I'm Furiosa! The darkest of angels. The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
My Avenging Angel, masterpiece from the master himself, Mr. George Miller. This is a movie that I already, despite it being out only a few months, have talked about on Underrated, because I think it is instantly an underrated movie. It did poorly at the box office. It's not going to get any awards contention when it absolutely should. It is an absolute epic movie in every sense of the word. It's just this desert saga of Furiosa, this tale of revenge and fury, and it's split into thirds. It's like almost as much about Dementis as it is about Furiosa. Anya Taylor, like, I remember when I first saw this, I was like, man, it's been like an hour and I have to pee, and Anya Taylor-Joy hasn't even shown up in this fucking thing yet. And it just goes and goes and goes. She is incredible. Tom Burke so good in this. Ayala Brown, who plays the younger version of her, who they do some cool stuff where they kind of like slowly merge her face into Anya Taylor-Joy's face over the course of the film. Is really good. She also, by the way, shout out to Sonic 3, plays Maria in that movie. But I think that this movie, you know, for all the awesome epic battles and the crazy things, there's such good set pieces in this. There's one where they go through Gastown and things are just falling apart and getting destroyed. The real crux of this movie, the real emotional like finale, is not a fight. It is these two people just talking in the desert, just like their life philosophies. And this movie is so anti-nihilistic that I cannot help but love it. It's just like this fucking shit world. The main bad guy is just, his whole philosophy is essentially nihilism. He's just like, yeah, nothing fucking matters, whatever. You know, it's all going to be bad. And Furiosa has gone so far down that path, been so sucked into revenge and stuff like that. She's kind of forgotten her mission to go and to get back to the green place and to help people out. And it does what is almost impossible for prequels to do, is it makes you really care about this character and see all these things happen. You're like, okay, well, I know this is a Furiosa prequel, so I know she's going to lose her arm at some point. But when it happens, you're like, what the fuck? Holy shit, you know? And I just really think that this is one of the best action movies of our time. You know, it's right up there with Fury Road for me. I think this is the number 2 Mad Max movie for me, and I think it's close to. You know, I think it's head and shoulders above any of the original ones. While those are great movies, particularly Road Warrior, this to me is some fucking great Mad Max shit. Anya Taylor-Joy gives an unimpeachable performance in this. This is a movie I watched on IMAX. It's a movie I watched on Dolby, and I also watched it at home every single time, every format. It hit me so fucking hard.
Yeah, it was all right.
Oh my god, this fucking guy, man.
I'm kidding. I love going back to the thing we talked about at the beginning is 2024. I think it will be remembered, you know, for very good reason, right? That theaters had some of the best theater going experiences, you know, 3 years on or 4 years on. Mm-hmm. Definitely will be remembered. I remember seeing this, you know, because I had to travel quite a bit to see it with my cousin, and it was might have been Dolby / IMAX. I distinctly remember the chairs shaking during some of those, you know, action set pieces, and yeah, some of the best action set pieces done by, like you said, the master of action, chase scenes and all of that stuff. You know, it's got unfortunately, you know, it's got the Fury Road to live up to, and I think that's kind of why I was a little, not a lot, but just a little cold on it. You know, it's just like, yeah, this is fucking amazing in and of itself. It is fucking incredible. Anya Taylor-Joy, like you said, incredible. The whole thing. Tom Burke being a guy that I've seen in a lot of, you know, indie stuff for a long time. I was like, Jesus Christ, that man can do fucking action. Did not know he had it in him. Similar to what I hope to see, you know, Christopher Abbott in the Wolfman coming up. So. Yes, I really had an amazing time in the theater seeing this, and yeah, I'm glad you loved it. I am generally glad you loved it. Yes. How about that? Yes. Yeah,
great movie.
Yes. All right, so we're at it, guys. Number 1 film of 2024. Derek, what do you think my number 1 film of 2024 is? Do you have any guesses?
We already know what it is, Damian. We know that it is. I saw the TV Glow. So take us home.
I know this might sound crazy. I don't want to alarm you. Do you remember a TV show we used to watch together? It was called...
The Big Go Big?
Yeah. Do you watch? Each episode, they help each other fight a new monster from across the county. But it's way too scary for most kids.
We're gonna defeat him this time. We're gonna need to harness the full potential.
Say the line, Bart. Say the line. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, interesting. You know, I just find so much media these days to be not interesting. I don't want to sound like, you know, whatever,
old man yells at cloud. To speak of the
sure. Simpsons. Yeah, old man yells at cloud. But yeah, I'm just so tired. I'm so burnt out. And I'm just so exhausted with, so much of what's, in front of us these days, which again, a lot of it's very, very good. A lot of the traditional, I had a couple of traditional things on my list. I have a lot of traditional stuff just outside of my top 10. But I gotta tell you, man, just like with, the horizon at the top and the bottom, a lot of stuff was just mid. I think that's such a good way of using that phrase from now on, which I'm going to, which is like the horizon's in the mid, the horizon's in the middle. It's not interesting. I find shit like this fucking fascinating. Not just interesting, but fascinating. Jane Schoenberg is a fascinating, incredible, idiosyncratic auteur director, and I cannot fucking wait for anything they make next. I saw TV Glow just hit me not as a person that's ever considered being trans, but as a person that thinks a lot about and writes a lot about and revisits my childhood on an almost daily basis. And so that's why I relate to this movie so fucking hard, is that this movie is essentially about, two characters that are trapped in their childhood. It's also, clear allegory for the trans experience of feeling like you don't fucking feel right in the body you were born in. And so that's definitely, I'm so, again, talking about things that are interesting, talking about things that need to be made, put onto the world so that people don't feel so alone. That is for them as well. But for me, it's this nostalgia of going back to things. Again, we talk about, repeating things, and for you, it's Lord of the Rings. For me, it's a lot of different media that I revisit a lot. And I think this hit me so hard because it is about somebody that feels trapped. You can definitely feel trapped in nostalgia. You definitely feel like, oh, I've seen that thing a million times, but I'm just gonna go back to it again because I feel like shit, and I just want to watch Pete and Pete for the second time, which I did this year because of this movie. So yeah, just all of those things. Really, really well acted by Joseph Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne. Some incredible cameos, fantastic music, fantastic lighting, fantastic all of that stuff. So cannot recommend. I saw the TV Glow highly enough. It's playing right now on Max, the one to watch for HBO.
Very nice. Yeah. I also enjoyed this film. I kind of got it from the other angle. Like I am not a trans person, but I am someone who the internet has thought I was an egg at various points. And of course the character in this, Justice Smith, is essentially an egg. For for people who aren't aware, that's maybe not the best term to use, but it's one the internet uses a lot for a person who is a trans person who has not come to the acceptance and or realization or come out as being a trans person. Yeah, and so I thought that was very interesting. A lot of the trans metaphors, a lot of the queer space stuff that was in this, and a lot of the way that relates to a lot of the media stuff that you were talking about hits. It is a little. I think that this film is a little narrows that a little bit to a specific trans experience, which is having dysphoria, which not all trans people do. I'm non-binary. That's something that I've never experienced. Obviously that's coming out as non-binary is much different than coming out as a man or a woman when you were assigned the opposite at birth. But dysphoria is a very real thing. But it's not the universal experience. I know that's something that this movie's got pushed back a little bit on, but is something that is definitely needs to be addressed. And I loved all the 90s Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Pete and Pete shit that was in this. I think that both Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne really good in this, and Fred Durst, what the fuck? All right, cool.
Two movies this year Mr. Durst has been in. Yeah. Featured prominently in. Yes. So there we go. My number one is that, and Derek, you got left, sir. Number one, we talked about it a little bit, alluded to it a little bit.
Anyone who's paying attention already knows.
Yeah, your number one is the film
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, 3. Part 3.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3, yeah.
Yes. Your movie is Luca Guadagnino's Challengers.
How often does this happen? Going after the same girl?
Not as often as you think.
We usually have different types.
So you're saying I should be flattered?
Aren't you everybody's type?
Come here.
Which one of us? He's not in love with you.
What makes you think I want someone to be in love with me?
It's nice to see you lit up about something, even if it's my girlfriend.
Art's got his coach, Tashi Donaldson, who also is his wife.
You are correct. Yes. We both went 4 for 4 in our each other's top twos. But
Nice.
Challengers, this movie is, in the way that I talked about, Humanist Vampire, and also I saw the TV Glow being very Damian coded films. This is a Derek ass coded fucking movie, right? This movie has everything I would want from a movie, right? It's got a spicy love triangle with back and forth. It's got the way that it approaches its narrative is so fascinating. Where it jumps around from different points in time, and it gives you a little bit of context here, it gives a little context there. All these three characters kind of rotating around each other. They're all essentially kind of in love with each other at the whole movie, but at various times there's different alignments that are happening, and they're all so good. All these characters are so good. So it's got Zendaya just like acting her ass off. Mike Feist, who we already talked about, Josh O'Connor, very, very good. It's also a fucking great sports movie. And it's a great sports movie because they have the exact right amount of sports in it, and the sport in it is not inconsequential. The sport is like point and paramount to everything that is happening in the movie, because the tennis is a metaphor for sex, right? And everything that is happening between these characters, this love triangle, the way that you can, and because tennis is like that, right? Tennis is like this sport where you're grunting, you're like going to back and forth between you and this one other person, and it's this like intense, like fucking crazy struggle between these two people, and the way they shoot the tennis in this is actually really well done. This is an immaculate sports movie. I talked about it on my Patreon, on my sports movie spin-off podcast, Underdogs, right when it came out, and how much I love this. And the more I've thought about it, the more I've loved this movie. There's enough tennis in it that it does feel like, okay, this is a very good tennis movie. They do the tennis right. It's actually shot really, really well. And as someone who's seen a lot of tennis movies, there's nothing else really like this. You watch like Wimbledon or something. It's a rom-com that just happens to be set while tennis is happening. But this is the fucking secret sauce, right? This is the fucking shit right here that I would love. This is a movie that I know I will go back to. I watched this movie on a fucking plane. I watched this movie in a theater. I watched this movie just hanging up by myself. I got my brother to watch this movie, and he was like, that was some weird shit. I was like, I know. I fucking love it, right? So good. And one more thing I'll say too. I talked about how the tennis is so important to this movie. The way that they take tennis, right? The 3-set structure of tennis, and they perfectly map it onto the 3-act structure of a film, right? You have the character who he wins the first set. He wins the relationship at the beginning. Then you have the character that wins the second set. He's the one that's in a relationship in the middle of the film. It comes out later on, right? And then you have the tie break. Who's going to win? Ultimately, they both seem to be getting points back and forth, right? And then it ends with that, after the third set, that tie break. There's so many great moments. Like, you think about the shit the churro scene. This movie's getting memed to death. That insane, the makeout scene that people like losing their fucking shit over. The bow now. Like, oh my fucking God, all right? I was talking to somebody about this movie who I may or may have not have a little thing with, who I know she was just like, oh yeah, Challengers, are you having gay panic? I was like, I wouldn't describe it as panic. This movie's fucking great. I fucking love that shit. So yeah, this film, absolutely phenomenal. I'm glad it was on your list as well. So I know it was your number 7, your number 9. I guess it's 7. I cede the floor to you, sir. I serve to you. I put the ball up to the middle to let you know our secret code, and then I serve to you.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Let me just pull up my list again. Let's see. Challengers was my number 9 film of the year. I completely wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. You talked about the music a little bit, but Agnes Ross, Trent Reznor coming through with another fucking banger soundtrack. The social network guys, the Tron guys. Or no, yeah, they were the Tron guys, right? Or I'm thinking of the.
No, that was Daft Punk.
Daft Punk.
They are going to be in the. I think they're going to do the next Tron movie. Might be what you're thinking.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yes. What else did I say? Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. It's the thing I always talk about. It's for adults. It's the things they don't make anymore, except they do. And it is this. And anybody that wants to, see incredible sports movies, see incredible, Zendaya movie. These people are, as they mentioned today in the Big Pick, they are the future of Hollywood. Zendaya, Mike Feist, Josh O'Connor in being in multiple movies this year. Zendaya obviously in Dune 2, Mike Feist in Bike Riders, Josh O'Connor. I think he was technically in La Chimera, which was 2023, but released earlier this year. Also in Lee, apparently. They're having incredible years. This is just going to put them on a whole new level. And yeah, it's about a lot of different things. I think the class issue was brought up quite a bit as well. I love the flashback scenes going back to when I was like 21, 22. So that scene and those clothes and that music harken back to a time that is very much still in my mind, very fresh in my mind, even though it was almost fucking 20 years ago at this point. Yes, just all of that stuff. Really well shot 10-ish, incredibly well acted by Zendaya, having that, sort of nascent but not naive sort of poise at the beginning, but then definitely coming full circle and becoming this sort of ruthless trainer. And again, like you said, it's about sex, but sometimes it's tennis, but it's mostly sex. And that's it's just that this scene is going to go down in history as one of all-time great. Yeah, not sex scenes without sex. Then there you go. Yes. That's the whole thing. Yes. That if you're that talented, like Guadagnino is, and like the actors are, and like the writer is, to write and choreograph and shoot a scene that is so fucking sexy without any sex. Incredibly impressive to pull that thing off. So yeah, Challengers. If you haven't fucking seen it, what is wrong with you? It's streaming right now on Amazon Prime.
Go out, fucking watch it immediately. Like I said, I think these are three actors who somehow are both able to play in their late teens and early 30s at various points of the film, and a bunch of ages in between. Incredibly sexy movie. People are just dripping with sweat and like it's all these sex scenes without sex. And I'll end it on what you mentioned, and what I wanted to talk about a little bit more was the music in this movie. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. That was like, there are a lot of I just listened to that shit on repeat. I also listened to the remix soundtrack because I listened to the regular soundtrack too much. I was like, gotta mix up the remix. The soundtrack was so good that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross were number 4 on my Spotify Wrapped artists because I fucking listened to this shit so much.
Yeah. Incredible. All right. So that is it, guys. That is our 2024 top 10 favorite films of the year. Right into midnightfilmsociety@gmail.com. Let me know your picks, your favorite movies of the year. Did get a couple, I reached out and asked some people on Letterboxd Discords, some questions. One was, what do you think, what movie out of your list do you think is going to be the most timeless, the one that's going to be past the test of time, whatever that phrase is. What do you think the movie we're going to be talking about in 10 to 15, 20 years from now will be from your list?
I think it's Challengers, honestly. I really think it's Challengers.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Definitely that, it's it takes place in a time, so there's not that, timelessness that a lot of movies like that can have. But yeah, definitely, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Let's see. So we'll just get the questions because I want to get the fuck out of here. Let's tally our stuff here, right? We go with you first, and you can list off your predictions for me. So Derek, Wolves was my number 10 guess for you. That was not on your list, correct?
No, not on the list. Goose egg on that guy.
Goose egg on Wolves. Going to number 9. Drop-Away Dolls was on your list, but not any close. Or no, it was not on your list.
No, it was not on my list.
Yeah,
it was almost. That was almost on my list. That's the one that I kicked off when I put on Nosferatu, but it was not on the list.
All right, and Fall Guy was also not on your list. 3 whiffs in a row for me.
Yep.
All right, so 0 there. Orion in the
0-0-0.
Oh boy, not starting out well for
not
me.
Looking so great for old Damian.
No. Number 6, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Where was that? Remind me.
That was my number 8, so that's 1 point for you. You're on the board.
1 point for me. Deadpool and Wolverine, not on your
Not
list.
on my list. I don't know where that came from. I liked that movie, but like has not to put it at number 5 on my list. That's
a lot of a lot of my list making was based upon movies you rewatched this year. So that was one you rewatched.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Alien strategy, Cotton.
Let's see if it pays off, and it doesn't. Alien Romulus, not on your list.
Not on my list. Yeah.
Dune. So all right, Dune Part 2.
Not on my list.
Oh, fuck me. Furiosa, spot on, and Challenger, spot on.
So that gives you, if my calculations are correct, 11 points.
Sure, 11 or 1. That we can go with 1.
Well, you got 5. You got the number 1 and 2 spot on, so that's 10 points right there.
Yeah, 10. Okay, you're right.
Yeah,
5
you got
there,
Furiosa
5
and
there.
Challengers number spot on, so that's
Plus
that's
1 for
points.
the yes. All right.
And then you got Kingdom on the list.
Let's see how bad of a walloping I got today.
Oh, pretty bad, I'm sure. So Substance I had at number 10, so I think that's a point for me there because it was off by 2.
Yep.
Kneecap I know was also on your list, but I had it at number 9, so I don't think it was close enough. So I just got another 1 point there, right?
Yep, 1 point. Yep.
All right, Civil War also on your list, but much higher, so that's just 1 point.
Yep.
Then I had Challengers. Where did you have Challengers?
Number 9, so that's 5 points.
Number 9,
so 3 points.
It's just 1 point because it was 2 away instead of being 1 away.
Right, correct.
So
okay.
that's just 1.
Yep, 1.
So that's 1. Furiosa not on your list though, right?
Nope.
My number 6 pick. Nosferatu also not on your list. But Bike Riders I had at number 4 and you had it at number 5.
Yes.
So that is 3 points.
Yep.
So that would put me at, what's that, 7?
Yes.
And then Dune, not on your list.
Nope.
And then Humanist Vampire at number 2, spot on. I saw the TV Glow.
Oh, yeah, 2. You said 2 for Humanist Vampire? Yeah.
And I saw the TV Glow at number 1, spot on. So that's 17 points.
All right, not that bad. I was just slacking.
Pretty good. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of my picks were right for you. You had 3 picks right. So I mean, there was the top 1 and 2s were doing a lot of lifting there, but I was.
Yeah. All right. So very quickly, honorable mentions for me for right outside the top 10. Number 11, The Apprentice, fantastic film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My number 12 is where I put Wild Robot, fantastic film. One we have not talked about today, My Old Ass at 13. Crossover with you at 14 with Love Lies Bleeding, and I'll let you finish. I'll switch it back to you after this. Number 15 was Good One, a film, little indie film about a girl and her father and her brother's friend go out on a hike together. So that was my, last 5. To 11 through 15. Derek, what's your honorable mentions?
Yeah. So I also, had, I'll say, 5 honorable mentions. I mentioned Drive Away Dolls, which came very close to making my list, a film that I liked a lot that not a lot of people did. Another film that you thought was going to be on my list, Wolf's. Really liked that movie. Thought it was a modern Butch Cassidy the Sundance Kid with the pairing of Clooney and Pitt, feeling very much like a throwback to those actors. Then another one that people didn't like, but I liked it a lot. Fly Me to the Moon. Just